In this boat stuff video, we're going to talk about focusing the camera and hull painting and things related. All right, so first step, once you have determined all of your defects in your hull and you have fixed them, the holes are gone, you have to fair the hull so that you have that nice smooth appearance that everybody's after on their boat. Smooth curvy lines, so you have hydrodynamics, good hydrodynamic qualities, right? That improves the efficiency of your propulsion system, either propeller driven by electric or gas, or your wind. So you're not eating up energy, just putting heat into the water through resistance, right? So you want a fair hull. You're going to make your filler compound, gel coat, whatever. I just used polyester resin with micro balloons and some fine strain fiberglass powder mixed together. Yeah, go check out Boatworks today and you will get all kinds of research materials and information on there. I don't necessarily agree with him. He is corporately sponsored by West Marine, their products, West Systems. Their stuff, top of the line, fantastic. You can go with it. But if you do your research and you know your materials, I believe you can cut some corners and save significant moolah. So yeah, get your hull all nice and ready for paint. Primer, now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't write it down, but that's fantastic. So primer, you're gonna rough the surface with a sander, put some micro cuts in it. I just use 60 grit sander, micro cuts all over the thing, just so it has something to grab to. Like you can't have a perfectly smooth sanded base. You need pits so your paint can grab onto it. So primer is not just for color evening. It does that. A lot of people think that that's what primer is for. Primer also has a chemical etching component to it. So it etches the surface of your material and sticks to it. And it also is a good like porous paint surface to adhere paint to. It's chemically ready to receive paints. I use 321 primer. I get it at Home Depot. It's fantastic. I use it for pretty much everything. So now we're talking about paints that go on the next after that. Bottom paint, hull paint. The main component that you're looking for in paint is polyurethane. You want plastic-based paint because it's not water soluble and it's durable and gonna last, right? So let's talk about paints. So there's three components to every paint, from like the stuff that the Mona Lisa was painted with to super fancy paints that you're using for marine grade applications, right? All paints have three components, three, not four. First component is the liquid carrier and the solvent. That is going to be your base material. So latex house paints use a latex based liquid, right? What you're concerned about is it water soluble or not, right? So typically latex is water soluble. So no, don't use that. You want polyurethane. Yes, polyurethane for boats. Okay. Your second part of the paint is your filler matrix. So that's going to be what gives it its feel. Okay. It's like the fiberglass in resin. So this is like your resin and this is like your fiberglass. Okay. For paint. It's very similar in structure, how it works. So your filler matrix, is that water soluble or not? Some paints use like a chalk base or talcum powder base filler material matrix. You don't want it to be water soluble. For the same reason you're building boats when For wooden boats, guys do it. They use like sawdust as their matrix for filling things in, and glue in the same way that you would use fiberglass. You don't want to use sawdust in a boat for obvious reasons. It soaks up water, and then you'll have delamination and material failure. So you want to make sure that your stuff is at least an exterior grade paint, meaning that it is not water soluble. So the other thing is wear resistance. Depending on the material that they put in there, it may wear more or less. So an exterior grade paint that you use on siding is not going to have the same wear resistance as an exterior grade paint that you would use on the floor of like a porch, right? So you might have floor paint that is wear resistant for interior use inside your house, but you wouldn't put something like that on the exterior of your house because water resistance, right? Water solubility of the filler matrix, right? So okay, and the same thing for that goes to pigment. What are they using for pigment is the same thing in here. For pigment, if you're gonna buy a marine grade paint and you want a specific fancy color besides white, it's all white, right? Or what are the other common colors? Like New England red and New England blue. That's pretty much all they have for your boat. Maybe you can find New England green, like Victorian era colors. You get the point. Maybe you can find a yellow, but you could go to, say, Lowe's or Home Depot and get a very specific color that you want, like school bus yellow, like I did. And you can pick out the color on the wall and bring it to the person and have them mix that specific color right then and there, and then you have it to go. If you wanted like school bus yellow from a marine supplier of paints, you would have to contact that company and have a custom order of your color, and then like, are you going to get the exact color that you want? How hard is that going to be? How much is that going to cost you for them to custom dye paint at their factory and then ship it? It's a pain. That's what I'm saying. Or you could have the person with the robot at the paint store mix one up. So what I'm saying you can get away with is polyester based, okay, because it's plastic solvent. This means you're going to have to throw away all of your brushes and things unless you know how to do that properly, to wash them out and reuse them. So buy plenty of brushes and rollers and whatnot, and be prepared to handle that. And then you're going to want exterior grade paint for water solubility. So it's not water soluble. And you're going to want wear resistance. So get an exterior grade floor paint, which is porch paint. You want porch paint, polyurethane based porch paint for these reasons. And that, these will follow to the pigment as well. And that will give you a $30 gallon of paint vice, $60 to $100 paint just for hull paint. And there's another type of hull paint called bottom paint. Bottom paint is ridiculously expensive. So their whole thing is that it stops biofouling from barnacles and whatnot, and also gives you a smooth surface so that your boat glides smoothly through the water. It is like $200 a gallon for the cheap stuff for bottom paint. One of my videos, when I still have my boat, I discussed using roll-on truck bed liner. And good Lord, on the forums, you cannot get a straight opinion on it. Some people are like, oh, heck yeah. Like, you could hit something and it won't damage your boat. I tell you for a fact, when my boat crashed on the trailer, it definitely prevented a crap load of damage on the bottom. There were some, unless you have like a direct stabbing thing that goes into the side of your boat, a scrape with your boat hitting something as you're like going over it, unless it's a jagged point, no worries. No worries whatsoever, my friend. You could hit at like, let's see, the boat was probably doing, I was on freeway 95, and I was probably going, let's say 50 miles an hour. There was traffic, and the boat broke off my truck and slammed into the guardrail probably around 35 to 40 miles an hour. And there was like one puncture wound where the frame of the trailer punctured through it. Everywhere else that it lurched forward on the trailer and significantly scraped the side of it. It was just surface damage on this bottom paint. Roll-on truck bed liner. Whoa, yeah, bud. Some of the guys on the forums are like, if you put that on there, it's going to make your boat so heavy that your boat will sink. It's not true. You could take a gallon of bottom paint and set it in a canoe, and your canoe will still float. You know, like it is not a black hole inside of the paint can. It doesn't weigh that much. It's not going to, draw space and time towards it and make your boat so dense that it plummets to the core of the planet. Pay attention in science, folks, so you don't look like a crazy person. So that stuff was awesome. It was super cheap. I only had to purchase 1 gallon of that, and I got it also in a spray can for parts that didn't need it. The reason, so you're thinking, oh, okay, well, now you have a rough surface on your hull. What? Why would you want a rough surface on your hull? And I had done some research and like looking up paints and stuff, and then like this video popped up on YouTube. It was like, oh, the military is experimenting with shark skin paint. And I was like, what is that all about? Turns out sharks have no biofouling, and they're the fastest creatures in the ocean because of their skin. And if you've ever felt a shark or a ray or anything in that family, it feels like sandpaper, much like roll-on truck bed liner. So the idea is, let's get the marker out so we can draw. So we have the surface, nice fair surface. It's flat, and that's flat. Look at that, beautiful. If you had your super glossy flat surface ideal, which everyone is chasing in the maritime professions and leisure, basically you try to get ideally flat as possible so that water, it's like just like mirror glass flat, and the water is almost like hydrophobically opposed to touching it, and like magic happens and your boat doesn't bond with the water somehow. And it just glides through the water. It's pristine. If you have scratches on it, you must polish them immediately, or your boat is gonna get caught in a storm, and the kraken of the spirit of the water will just draw you to the bottom and kill you. That's not how it works. So on a shark skin, it's a bit more uniform, but there's like little teethy things that are like this. And what happens is, as a top profile, they kind of look like an airfoil, hydrofoil, like that. In this area underneath, you get these like micro current bubble things, right? Which energize the water. This makes it high pressure, and this is low pressure, high pressure, right? And this carries on to the next one, and you end up having this high pressure zone across here. So basically a shark has its skin, and then it has made its own hull of high pressure water. So you have water on water friction here, vice water on hull friction here. This is more resistive than this, right? So if you had an irregular surface that was painted with truck bed liner, it has like the gritty sandy parts in it. Let's say that that's what the grit looks like. You're gonna have some irregular shapes and whatever. It's not gonna be beautiful and pristine like God makes it on a shark. And then you have the filler matrix material that kind of mounds up to it like that. You're gonna have microcurrents behind here, and there, and there, right? So this is your high pressure zone, just like a shark skin. And the irregular surface of a shark, you can't get a good suction on it. That's how barnacles adhere themselves. They're a suction cup. So air leakies, they can't hold on. So they can't adhere. Same idea with this. I will say, barnacles did start to attach to my hull, but the barnacles on my hull were that big. I had it in the water for a month. They were like that. Size comparison. That was like the biggest one. Over a month. That's what got on there. Now, let's say that I am completely off with the truck bed liner preventing biofouling. And I'm still going to get barnacles. Well, turns out I'm still going to get barnacles just like everyone else does when their hull paint starts to fail and the barnacles attach themselves. So what are you going to do? Well, it's truck bed liner. So I can take a scraper, a metal scraper, and just scrape them off my hull. Or, maybe get a pressure washer. They have underwater pressure washer attachments. So you can pressure wash your hull underwater and just spray the barnacles off or just scrape them off. And it's truck bed liner, so it's not going to damage my hull like if I had $200 per gallon ablative hull paint. No, like why wouldn't you? And this effect, you're like, oh, well, that's just a theory. You didn't try it out. I did try it out because I had my boat on the water, and I've been on other sailboats. And when you accelerate with your sailboat on the water, typically on most sailboats, I'm trying to put my marker away. Sorry, guys. It's like a smooth progression up to speed. The wind catches the sail, and as the sail is filling out, your boat starts to glide up to speed. Okay? On my boat, it was weird. I'm sitting at the tiller, manning the thing. I turn the boat into the wind. The wind catches the sail fills out, the rigging and the mast visibly like lurch forward, but the boat sits. It just, like it was a log in the water, waterlogged log in the water, just wasn't moving. And everything, all the components like started pulling. The boat sat there for like a split second, and then like a turbocharged car with turbo lag, whew, it was off. And I swear that it was faster than a regular sailboat. I don't know. There was a speed gauge. I can't remember the name of the speed gauge on a boat. There was a speed gauge on board, but it didn't work. It wasn't serviceable, and it wasn't required for operation, so I didn't have a functioning speed gauge on board. And I didn't have a before condition where I tested the boat before the hull paint and after the hull paint. So I cannot tell you the difference. I didn't know the wind speed, so I could compare wind speed vice the water over the hull speed. But I feel like, based on my experience on other boats, that it was faster. And there was a noticeable acceleration performance difference. So there's that. I would recommend, and if I get another sailboat, I will say I am going to use truck bed liner for hull paint again. If there's ablative paint on there, I'm gonna put it on. If it's still serviceable, I'll use it. But if I need to replace that ablative paint, I'm gonna put it on the hard, and I'm just gonna get rid of it. I'm gonna pressure wash it. Ablative paint comes off with a pressure washer, you guys. It's crap. $200 per gallon of junk. I'm gonna pressure wash it off, sand it off, prep the surface, put some primer on there, and then hull paint. $50 a gallon hull paint. Not hull paint, truck bed liner. You roll it on with a roller, and you're not worried about doing the roll and tip method where you roll it and then you have to go back over with a brush. The idea of it is that it's rough and rugged and shark skin like. Super simple. Where the parts that it didn't fill in quite right, or didn't adhere because there was a bit too much ablative paint, right? still left over, it didn't want to stick. I went back over with a spray can and put it on there, and it was good. It worked. It worked fine. Boat registration. So it's another thing you're gonna have to do to your hull. So you go and you get your boat registered. Make sure you have all the paperwork on your boat when you buy it. You go to the DMV or whatever, you register your boat, you get your registration. Well, they don't give you numbers to put on your boat, but you have to have numbers on your boat displayed. So then once you get your numbers on paper that are now yours legally, you go to the store and you're like, oh, where's the number store for boats, the boat number store? Well, you can't, if you go to like Home Depot or whatever, you get a sticker that is a rectangle that's white and it has a black number. And it looks like numbers that you would put on a mailbox. So you put the numbers that look like a mailbox on your boat, it looks like numbers that you would put on a mailbox on your boat, and it looks rinky-dink. Then you're like, okay, well, I'll go to West Marine, I guess, and they'll have numbers, and you buy the special boat numbers, and even the mailbox ones are like $1 a piece, and you have to put on I want to say like 8 numbers. I don't know, depends. 8 numbers. So that adds up. And it's not a terrible expense. But then you go to the boat store that has boat stuff and you look at the boat numbers and, well, guess what? They're 3 times the cost. So what I did, I wanted it to look nice, but I didn't want to pay a lot of money. I was going to keep my boat registration number for my boat, like indefinitely. So I learned a valuable skill, an expensive valuable skill. It's called hand sign painting. It's a dying art. There's videos on YouTube on how to hand paint signs, the materials you use, and the scales and whatever. I used black door paint and hand painted the numbers on my hull. I had stencils. Sorry, my hands. I got stencils like these ones from the store. They're like $3 for a package of them. And I think there's a size minimum. It has to be visible from a certain distance. So I got the size of stencils bigger than that. And I lined them up to the way that I wanted to use them. Like the spacing. I got the spacing right and made a stencil. So like this is a stencil that I made. I did this cool project with my daughter. She was doing some dare thing, right? So I did like that with my numbers. And obviously you don't want to leave these marks behind. So I taped this onto my hull and got a pencil and did the outlines of all the stuff. And then when I actually painted it, I just painted over this area. I used a brush like this one, with a nice chisel tip on there, just like this one. And I was able to get real sharp, crisp lines. Do a couple coats if you have to. If you notice old hand-painted signs, they kind of have like streaks in them. That just happens. It's okay. You're not going to notice it from a distance. And it's part of the reason why someone who hand paints a sign these days is so expensive, because it has that hand painted character, right? So when somebody comes up to it, they're not going to say, oh, there's streaks in your numbers, so I don't like it. Well, if they don't like it, it's hand painted, like they don't get it. It's an art. So if you know how to do that, okay, do it for your boat. If you know how to do that, then you can hand paint signs when you're in the marina, or, hand paint other people's numbers so they don't have to have crappy, expensive stickers from the boat store that everyone else has. You can hand paint the names of boats on people's boats and do like custom paint jobs by hand because you know how to do it. So there's an option. yeah, learn how to do hand painting. It was pretty fun. It took some extra time and effort, but I was more happy with the outcome product of that than I would be buying some stock stickers that were expensive. And it cost, just for the little thing of paint that I used for something else too. I think it was maybe $10. So the same price as stickers, but I learned a new skill. Fantastic. Do it that way. Do it, because I said so. If you don't, then you're a chump or something. Who knows? That's it for this video. We're at 25 minutes. That is probably too long. I will talk to you guys later. I love you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am out.